Book about Amazon.com and its CEO Jeff Bezos is receiving mostly positive feedback. It is called The Everything Store, but Bezos' wife doesn't like what she's reading. She's a writer herself.
MacKenzie Scott may have once been known as Jeff Bezos' wife, but she's more than that. From helping launch Amazon in its earliest days to becoming one of the world's most generous philanthropists, her story is filled with brilliance, integrity, and unexpected twists. With a net worth in the billions, she's quietly reshaping global giving and rewriting what it means to be wealthy with purpose. You might think you know her, but her achievements will leave you stunned. So how did she move out from Jeff Bezos' large shadow? And how did she transform her wealth into a force for good? Join us as we reveal stunning things about Jeff Bezos' ex-wife that will blow your mind. MacKenzie Scott, the quiet and introverted genius. You may not hear her name in headlines every day, but MacKenzie Scott is quietly reshaping the world, and doing so on her own terms. For years, she was known simply as Jeff Bezos' wife, the mysterious other half of the Amazon empire. But today, she's stepped out from behind the shadows. While others broadcast their wealth, MacKenzie Scott disappears from the spotlight, only to reappear in footnotes announcing billion-dollar donations or in the quiet pages of powerful fiction. To understand her now, you have to trace the story of where she came from. A journey that begins with a bookworm and ends with a billionaire author-philanthropist defying every stereotype. MacKenzie Scott was born Mackenzie Tuttle on April 7, 1970, in San Francisco, California. From the beginning, her life was positioned for stability but not spectacle, a quality that's defined her. Raised in Marin County, one of the wealthiest and most tranquil regions of Northern California, MacKenzie grew up in a home where intellect and discipline were part of the daily rhythm. Her father worked as a financial planner, a profession grounded in strategy and long-term vision. Her mother was a homemaker, nurturing the domestic calm that allowed creativity to blossom. Unlike many children growing up in privileged communities, MacKenzie didn't seek the spotlight. She was introverted, observant, the kind of child who found entire worlds in silence. While other kids were out biking or playing loud games, MacKenzie could be found with her nose in a book or hunched over her own writing. At the tender age of 6, Scott MacKenzie wrote her very first book, a slim, homemade volume titled The Bookworm. It might have looked like scribbles to others, but it was a signal of what was to come. The mind of a storyteller already at work. By her own account, MacKenzie spent countless hours crafting short stories, often more interested in the emotional truth of her characters than in plot or flash. She wasn't trying to be the next best-selling author. She was trying to understand people. This emotional intelligence, a deep curiosity for how people think, hurt, and grow, would later infuse her fiction and her philanthropy alike. Her gift for writing eventually took her to the Hotchkiss School, one of the country's most prestigious boarding schools. There, her world widened, intellectually and socially. She soaked in Shakespeare, wrestled with complex novels, and began to refine her voice as a thinker. But it was her time at Princeton University, beginning in the late 1980s, that would forever shape her trajectory. She majored in English, graduating in 1992, and studied under none other than the Nobel Prize-winning author, Toni Morrison. Morrison, who rarely handed out unearned praise, once described MacKenzie as one of the best students I've ever had. That kind of endorsement doesn't come lightly. Morrison saw in Scott a rare ability to observe the world, distill its truths, and then translate those truths into elegant, layered fiction. This was a woman destined for literary greatness, but fate and finance had other ideas first. After graduation, MacKenzie, still Tuttle at the time, took a job at D.E. Shaw, a cutting-edge hedge fund in New York City known for hiring top intellectuals. It was here that she met Jeff Bezos, then a brilliant and quirky senior vice president with dreams of an everything store. They hit it off almost instantly. Within 3 months, they were engaged. Within 6 months, married. It was a whirlwind romance that would soon morph into one of the most ambitious entrepreneurial partnerships in modern history. When Bezos came up with the idea for Amazon, MacKenzie didn't hesitate. She packed up her life and moved with him to Seattle, driving cross-country with him and helping write the business plan along the way. But even as Amazon grew, something else burned inside her, something older, quieter, and just as relentless as the company they were building. MacKenzie never let go of her first love, storytelling. In 2005, she published her debut novel, The Testing of Luther Albright. It wasn't a blockbuster, but it was something better. It won the American Book Award, a prestigious prize that recognizes literary excellence without commercial bias. Luther Albright was a meditative, deeply psychological story about a man whose personal and professional worlds unravel. A subtle but profound narrative about integrity, pressure, and identity. Critics praised her for writing that was elegant and emotionally raw. In 2013, she returned with a second novel, Traps, a more plot-driven but no less thoughtful tale of 4 women whose lives intersect across 4 dramatic days. The book was hailed for its insight into the emotional weight women carry and the unexpected bonds that can change everything. So how did this quiet and introverted author help build Amazon from scratch? Let's delve into that story, the silent architect behind Amazon. Before Amazon became a trillion-dollar titan, before same-day delivery, before Alexa, before it redefined how the world shops, it was just an idea sketched out on the back seat of a car barreling west. And in that car, navigating both highways and the unknown, sat 2 people: Jeff Bezos, the dreamer with a relentless plan, and MacKenzie Scott, the woman who would become Amazon's first employee and one of its least credited architects. Their cross-country drive from New York to Seattle in 1994 has become a kind of tech industry folklore. But what's often glossed over is how much of that journey was powered not by Bezos alone, but by Scott's unwavering belief and commitment. When they arrived in Seattle, there was no office, no warehouse, no business structure, just a small garage, an old door-turned-desk, and a vision to build the everything store. While Jeff focused on securing investment and refining the business model, MacKenzie dove into the nuts and bolts of turning theory into reality. She negotiated leases, managed early contracts, and handled customer service at a time when every order felt like a miracle. She ran the books. Amazon's first financial records were balanced not by a team of accountants, but by MacKenzie alone. In an age before cloud-based platforms and sleek dashboards, she kept the company's early accounting system together, using spreadsheets and her own diligence. She was, quite literally, Amazon's first CFO, head of HR, legal advisor, and problem solver in chief. But unlike most co-founders, MacKenzie didn't chase the spotlight. She didn't demand credit or titles. Her role was foundational but quiet, the kind of work that builds companies from the ground up but doesn't make headlines. While Bezos pitched investors and plotted global domination, MacKenzie remained a steady presence, attending meetings, listening intently, offering sharp insight, and keeping the ship balanced. Several former employees and insiders have since acknowledged that she was a grounding force, especially in the chaotic early days when Amazon was hemorrhaging money, struggling to stay afloat, and barely scraping by. Her ability to keep calm, think long-term, and resist panic helped stabilize Jeff Bezos when pressure mounted. In fact, those early Amazon years were not just a tech startup story. They were a marriage of intellect, discipline, and shared sacrifice. And sacrifice she did. MacKenzie had always dreamed of being a novelist, not just as a hobby, but as a career. But as Amazon consumed more and more time, she put her literary ambitions on hold, shelving her personal goals so the company could survive and thrive. She didn't chase book deals or literary acclaim during Amazon's formative years. Instead, she chose spreadsheets over sentences, logistics over literature. She walked away from a traditional career path, trusting not only in Jeff's dream, but in their shared ability to bring it to life. It's tempting to view Amazon as Jeff Bezos' singular achievement, and in many ways, it is. But peel back the layers, and you'll find that in the company's DNA is the mark of a woman who never craved attention, but whose fingerprints are all over its foundation. MacKenzie Scott was never just the wife. She was the co-pilot, the builder, the quiet architect of one of the most powerful companies on earth. But how much of that translated into their marriage? Let's delve into that. Rolling in riches. Long before the billionaire headlines and Silicon Valley empires, MacKenzie Scott and Jeff Bezos were just two bright minds navigating New York City's financial world. They met, he interviewed her, she admired his laugh. Their connection was instant. It was a union grounded in intellectual chemistry and shared ambition. This wasn't a fairy tale whirlwind of glitz. It was a partnership built on big ideas and even bigger dreams. When Jeff pitched the idea for Amazon, MacKenzie didn't hesitate. She left her job, packed up her life, and hit the road with him to Seattle, not just as a supportive spouse, but as a co-founder and believer in the impossible. As Amazon skyrocketed from startup to global titan, MacKenzie and Jeff's lives transformed dramatically. Yet she remained remarkably private, choosing not to bask in the spotlight of her husband's fame. Together, they raised 4 children, 3 biological and 1 adopted from China, balancing family life with the demands of a growing empire. While Jeff became a household name, MacKenzie focused on the things that mattered to her: family, writing, and values. Despite living in one of the world's most high-profile households, she mastered invisibility with grace, quietly raising children while helping shape the company that would reshape commerce. In January 2019, after 25 years of marriage, the couple announced their divorce on Twitter. But this wasn't a drama-filled tabloid story. It was a message of mutual respect and enduring friendship. MacKenzie walked away with 25% of their Amazon shares, worth an estimated $36 billion at the time. Yet instead of hoarding wealth, she shocked the world again. She pledged to give it all away. Their split wasn't the end of a love story. It was the beginning of MacKenzie's transformation into the world's most unconventional philanthropist. In leaving the marriage, she didn't just reclaim her name. She reclaimed her mission. For a brief time, she held the title of third-wealthiest woman. Yet you'd never see her flaunting designer gowns at galas or making splashy red carpet appearances. Instead, MacKenzie did what she's always done, kept a low profile and let her actions speak. While her net worth still hovers above $30 billion, depending on Amazon's stock swings, she has already given away more than $14 billion, choosing to move money, not hoard it. During her marriage, she and Bezos lived in a number of stunning homes, including a Medina waterfront mansion in Washington, a sprawling Texas ranch, and a luxurious Beverly Hills estate. But after the divorce, MacKenzie began quietly selling off these properties, trading square footage for social impact. The proceeds? Largely redirected to nonprofits, community colleges, and grassroots organizations that had never seen that kind of support before. In 2019, she signed the Giving Pledge, promising to donate the majority of her fortune in her lifetime. But MacKenzie didn't just sign it, she reinvented it. She has publicly criticized traditional philanthropy for being too slow, too complicated, too top-down. Instead, she uses a lean, anonymous team of researchers to identify high-impact organizations, then writes no-strings-attached checks, sometimes worth hundreds of millions, without expecting recognition. For MacKenzie Scott, wealth isn't a symbol of status. It's a tool, and she's using it with unprecedented speed and humility, making her perhaps the most quietly disruptive billionaire alive. A relentless giver. In a world where billionaires slap their names on museums and host star-studded charity galas, MacKenzie Scott has quietly become one of the most transformative philanthropists of the 21st century. Without so much as a ribbon-cutting or red carpet, MacKenzie's style of giving is revolutionary not just because of the amount, but because of the how. Rather than tightly control where every dollar goes, she does something most billionaires wouldn't dare. She trusts the people receiving her money. Her grants are unrestricted, no bureaucratic hoops, no micromanaging, no lengthy quarterly reports. The message is simple. You know your community better than I ever could. Here's the funding. Go do the work. From climate change initiatives to racial justice organizations, food banks, to education nonprofits, her donations have reached grassroots groups often ignored by mainstream philanthropy. These aren't the usual high-profile recipients of billionaire largesse. They're underfunded local champions, finally given a chance to scale their impact. MacKenzie Scott refuses to operate through a personal foundation, something almost unheard of at her wealth level. There's no MacKenzie Scott Foundation building to tour, no gala to attend, no Instagram account to follow. Instead, she's built a lean team of researchers and advisors who identify overlooked yet high-impact organizations and funnel money to them. Her philanthropic reach is staggering, not just in scale, but in the diversity and depth of the causes she champions. Consider this. She gave $275 million to Planned Parenthood, marking the largest single donation in the organization's history. This wasn't just a contribution. It was a bold statement supporting reproductive rights and healthcare access at a pivotal time in the national conversation. Equally transformative was her $436 million donation to Habitat for Humanity. This massive gift was thoughtfully distributed across all 84 affiliates nationwide, fueling efforts to build not only homes, but lasting hope for thousands of families in need. Her giving also shines a spotlight on education equity. She directed hundreds of millions toward historically black colleges and universities and community colleges, institutions that have long endured systemic underfunding. These funds bolster opportunities for Black, Latino, and low-income students, empowering them with the resources and recognition they deserve. Her generosity doesn't stop there. Dozens of organizations serving LGBTQ+ communities, immigrant legal aid groups, rural health clinics, and indigenous-led conservation programs have also found themselves unexpectedly blessed. Her giving is expansive, inclusive, and quietly revolutionary. Perhaps most remarkable is the way she gives. Many organizations discovered they were recipients not through lengthy applications or flashy fundraisers, but through a simple, almost unbelievable email. No pitch, no strings attached, just a message saying they were receiving millions. One nonprofit director captured the shock and gratitude best. It felt like a miracle. MacKenzie Scott didn't just give money. She changed the culture of giving. Her trust-based, hyper-efficient style has sparked a serious conversation in philanthropic circles, challenging the notion that giving must be slow. Questioning why donors often insist on controlling work they scarcely understand, and raising the broader point. More billionaires could follow her lead. As a result, several other philanthropists have begun to rethink their models, even releasing control over how their funds are used. It's safe to say she's living her life just how she wants it. Life after Jeff Bezos. For someone who's given away more money than most billionaires will earn in 10 lifetimes, MacKenzie Scott remains something of a ghost in the public eye, not absent, just deliberately quiet. After spending decades as half of a global power couple, she's chosen a life built not on privacy and purpose. The first step in reclaiming that life was her name. After the divorce, she legally changed it from MacKenzie Bezos to MacKenzie Scott, drawing her new surname from her grandfather. It wasn't just symbolic, it was strategic. She was, in effect, reintroducing herself to the world, not as someone's ex, but as someone entirely her own. She turned down TV interviews, she avoided social media, she made no bids for spotlight or sympathy. While other billionaires curated public personas, MacKenzie simply walked away from the stage and let her work speak volumes. In 2021, MacKenzie Scott quietly remarried, not to a CEO or investor, but to Dan Jewett, a Seattle high school science teacher known for his humility and curiosity. Their union was low-key, sweet, and unbothered by status. But by 2023, just as quietly, they divorced. No drama, no gossip cycle, just two people parting ways with the same mutual respect she modeled years before. Throughout it all, she's continued focusing on her three greatest commitments: her children, her writing, and her mission to give back. Education has always been at the heart of MacKenzie's values, not just as a former student of Toni Morrison, but as a believer in knowledge as freedom. There's been speculations that she might publish another book soon, but nothing substantial yet. Whether or not MacKenzie Scott returns to the page, one thing is clear: she's already authored one of the most powerful second acts in modern history, and she's way more than the Jeff Bezos sidekick many have thought she was. MacKenzie Scott may have once entered the public eye as the wife of the world's richest man, but she has since rewritten that narrative with extraordinary grace. In a culture obsessed with celebrity, speed, and self-promotion, she is a rare figure, a billionaire who gives without fanfare, a writer who chooses depth over fame, a woman who walked away from the world's biggest fortune and made her own. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Also, check out another interesting video by clicking on the video shown on your screen. See you on the other side.